sorry, one of the smartest players for me on the circuit. Have you always been a thinking player?
Yeah, I guess so. I'd probably say I'm not the most natural cueist in the world, or like a Chris Mellin, a Mika, but more so like a Ralph Souquet, Nick Vandenberg, Alex Pagulayan style player.
Yeah.
So I think that's more important to have a smarter game and a more solid game, like for like a longer career. I think. I think it's great, like to have your shot makers like Drago and the likes of him, but I like to be in control of what's happening. So I've like really worked hard on my stroke really, and just to make sure that I can keep playing the game for a long time. But also just learning the safety game, watching a lot of videos. Probably like thousands of videos over the last 3-4 years.
Thousands?
Yeah, and just watching all the top players. I love watching pool, and especially the top players.
And coming from the English pool, which is a thinking game for me as well.
Yeah. English
gives you the right mindset, I think, coming to the game.
Give me a great start when I first come to American pool. Playing English 8-ball give me like a bit of an head start. Coming to American pool, because like my basic safety was good, but then I had to learn like the cue ball, the equipment, and then obviously like kicking and stuff like that. And but mainly the percentage of kicking is the most important part when it comes to safety. And I still think that's what a lot of players do wrong, is that they're kicking, but they're not necessarily kicking the right way to give themselves the best chance to get lucky or like to play a better shot. So it's very important to understand why the players are playing these safeties, and why is he playing it this way or that way.
And so you've studied systems, kicking systems?
Yeah, I'm not massive on systems, but I like, probably my favourite is the mirror image. But also you got to have a lot of feel with your safety, I feel. Because like if you watch all the Filipino players, I don't think any of them have a system.
Efren?
I don't think any of them have a system, as far as I know. I mean, I've spoke to Alex and them guys, and he says he just plays on feel and muscle memory, and so yeah, I think a lot of it's natural talent with the Filipinos. Maybe the European guys a bit more technical, I think, with the safety, but that's not a bad thing. I mean, we just like to be pretty sure what's happening with the balls and the cue ball.
And the big stroke, like coming from English pool to 9 foot, and now sometimes 10 foot. You practice big strokes, longer strokes. Have you adapted your setup?
Yeah, probably. I think when I first come to the game, I didn't have a powerful stroke. I think I spoke to you about that a long time ago, and I think that was my weakest part of my game. But I wouldn't say I've got a big powerful stroke, but I've definitely improved it a lot in recent times, because it is needed. So I'm starting to learn how to use the closed bridge more than anything. I think that's very important for the draw.
But no changes in your setup?
No, my stance on that's pretty much the same. But I just like when I played it English pool, I used to pause at the back of the cue and come through. But I learned to have a better rhythm and feel. It's better to pause at the cue ball. Yeah. And
like Efren.
And just bringing the cue back a bit slower before I come through with a follow through. And I think that's helped me a lot. And it definitely helps me to keep my head still as well. Yeah. And keep a lot looser with the grip. That's the biggest thing I've worked on, is my grip. Because when I used to get under pressure, I used to get tight on the cue. And you can feel yourself choking the cue. So it's very important, like, to have a loose grip, even when you're under pressure and you're shaking. You have to trust yourself with the pressure to keep loose and keep your head still. So they're like the two biggest basics, I think, to anybody really, is to be really loose and keep your head still.
The last bit, I come from the Dutch school. We like to control situation as well. We think about the game, but sometimes it can be hard to have a good rhythm, to not lose rhythm. What do you do when you might be in a match and you're not fluent? Do you try to force yourself in a rhythm, or you just accept the rigidity of your mindset at that moment?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're not always going to have the mindset every time I go out and play, but I think the biggest key is to try and stick to your same rhythm. But obviously if you're not happy with your game and you don't feel good on that particular time, then I can tend to slow down if I don't feel good in myself and I'm not playing well. I think it helps me to slow the pace down a little bit, and then it just means that I'm taking a lot more care over each shot. But in general, I'll probably say 80% of the time I try and stick to the same rhythm, the same feel. But at the end of the day, we're all human, and even the best players can change pace. So I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but it is better if you can keep at the same rhythm. But what I would say is that don't speed up the rhythm. I think don't try and for example, tomorrow I'm going to play Tony. I think it's very important to not play at his speed, and that's the mistake I made the first 2 or 3 times I did play against him. I let him dictate the pace, but I've learnt the last 2 or 3 times that I play against him is to try and dictate the pace myself, and it's definitely worked against him. So it's important to keep a rhythm, but at the same time you have to think about your opponent and the speed he's playing. For example, someone like Ralph, if he's playing well, I think the slower players play better on the shot clock, like Johnny Archer, Ralph Souke, than they do when they don't have a shot clock. So it's all a bit of a pull in general is like a mental battle. So finding your own comfort zone and your own strengths is very important.
All right, thanks. Good luck.
Cheers.